Alright guys, so what we're going to do is test the input lag of the LG OLED E8. And how we're going to do this is we're just going to go through each and every last picture option, and we're just going to make sure that we test the input lag of each mode so you guys know what it is. So first up, we're going to test out standard. Right? So, in the standard picture mode, we're going to be getting somewhere in the ballpark of around, I would say 91 maybe? No, I think it's just going to stop at 92. So, in the standard mode we have 92. Now what we're going to do, if I'm not mistaken, that should be with soap opera effect enabled. So now let's go ahead and see what happens when we disable soap opera effect. Okay, we're going to go into True Motion, and we're just going to turn all that stuff off. Alright, now let's see the difference in the input lag. We were at 92 before, so let's see if we were able to improve it. Now, ironically enough, by turning off clear, we actually have 108 milliseconds here. We have 108 milliseconds because we turned off the soap opera effect. Now, what happens if we go back in and we turn on maybe smoothness, right? And again, this is just a good way to give you an idea of what this TV does, how it performs, and all that good stuff. So let's just do it on smooth. See the kind of input lag that it adds, if any. So we were at 108 before. So now we're going to go over here. There we go. And we're at 90 milliseconds, 91. So as you can clearly see, there is definitely less input lag with soap opera effect on than with it off. So a lot of people say that, soap opera effect is just terrible and it adds all this delay, and that's just not true here. So now we're going to go down to the, let's go up to the vivid mode because I haven't checked that yet. And for our soap opera effect options, we're going to go down to maybe, let's try it off first if it's on. So we're going to go ahead and turn that off. Alright. And yeah, with soap opera effect off, we're at 108.6 milliseconds, not a dial more. Right? Okay, so now let's go ahead and measure with soap opera effect on, because I know that's very important for a lot of users as well. Again, getting the real information on these products to know just what soap opera effect does, because a lot of people say that, turning on motion controls doesn't actually improve motion or doesn't help the TV, it adds all this input lag, and it's just not true. So, we're in smooth now, okay? Now, here we sit at 92.1 milliseconds. Now we're at 91, 92, but it goes up and down. It does fluctuate a little bit, but for the most part, I'd call it at 92 milliseconds. So as you see, lower than 108. Now what we're going to do is go to a different menu, or different setting here. We did standard, so let's try APS now. And we're going to start off with it, soap opera effect off. I'll just do that for all of these really. I'm in the wrong one here. Let's go down here and let's just turn soap opera effect off. Okay. Now we're going to measure this thing. And with soap opera effect off, you see we're at 92 milliseconds. This will probably be what you'll experience across the board and like each and every last mode, but you never know. Maybe one mode might be more optimized than the other. So we're at about 92 milliseconds there. So now let's see what happens when we go off into, let's go into Soap Opera Effect on, and we're just going to go to smooth, right? Okay. And to be very honest with you, I'm probably not even doing this the best I can. I should probably go through each and every last motion option, but I don't want to keep you guys here for a ridiculously terrible amount of time. So as you guys see, we're at 100 milliseconds now with the Soap Opera Effect on. So there you go. I don't really know if it was on before. I'm not sure. I think it was actually on user. So when you use smoothness, you have 100.4 milliseconds. And I was just on user, I believe. I think. I'm not entirely sure right now. You guys watching the video probably know better than I do. I'm not actually keeping track of this. I'm just kind of going through each one here. And so let's compare that to Soap Opera Effect when Soap Opera Effect is maxed out. Okay? Compared to maxing out your Soap Opera Effect, our number sits at 100 milliseconds, undeniably. Now let's see what happens when we turn off Soap Opera Effect. Again, this is the APS picture option, just so you guys can get the idea of what this television is capable of. Let's go APS off. Okay. And we are at 106. So as you guys are seeing, you clearly have more input lag when you turn off Soap Opera Effect. The motion smoothing is doing a great job of giving you low input lag on OLED. And a lot of people disable this feature because a lot of the mainstream reporters and reviewers tell you, don't use these features. Turn all of your extra processing off. And I always turn this stuff on. As you guys see right now, I'm at 96, 97 on the milliseconds here. It's doing quite well, actually. Not doing bad at all. It goes up, it goes down. Let's see where this actually ends up falling to. Because it seems like it's still readily climbing here. So we're going to hold this one here. And we're at 100.3.2 milliseconds. Okay, now that was for the cinema user, and let's see what we have for our settings here for our motion. We're on Soap Opera Effect, so that's with Soap Opera Effect on. Now let's see if that improves with Soap Opera Effect off. Okay, we're going to run this test again. There you go. You see, it's not exactly as high, but they're about the same for the cinema mode. So I find that interesting. In cinema, they're about the same, give or take 0.1 of a percentile better with using soap opera. Now it jumps to 0.4, so I think it will just fluctuate a bit between a little bit of a 0.1 and 0.2 difference. But either way, Soap Opera Effect on still does have better results. I've got to go back in later on and turn all that stuff back on. But I want you guys to see, like, across these picture modes that you might use every day, what the real results actually would end up being. Now we're going to start with Soap Opera Effect off, right? Pop up our test here, let it populate, and now we're going to just go up to it. And with Soap Opera Effect off, hold on, Soap Opera Effect off, wait for it. We're going to see if it can hold or if that number goes down. So far with Soap Opera Effect off, we're at 108.7. So not the best reading there. Now let's see what happens when we turn Soap Opera Effect on again. Okay. Let's say we just go to user, because that's what I personally would use. right? And my, look at that difference there. That's incredible. This one's a lot lower, coming in at about 92 milliseconds input lag. That's not bad compared to what we had with it off. So, you guys are seeing in real time, man. A lot of the stuff that you read, a lot of the stuff that people publish, not necessarily the case. I mean, the manufacturers are pretty much scumbags, or, well, you know, that's just one of those things, you know? So, look, we're here with user on the soap opera effect here, right? And you see I have everything maxed out. Well, if I go to off, as you guys saw I was at like 92 there, right? Now let's see what it is on this soap opera effect off ramp right here. So we're sitting steadily at 108.5 milliseconds. Let's just call it at 108 milliseconds. It will go up though, up and down on a variable level. But as you guys can clearly see, there is definitively less input lag when you use the soap opera effect. Now let's try game mode. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a soap opera effect feature in game mode, so just gonna have to make do with what we've got. And as you guys can clearly see, it's going to continuously fall as we just ramp up and down. Just gotta be patient with it. And there we are, we're sitting at 21.3.4 milliseconds in game mode. That's where we are. Now, what would happen if we were to go into HDR Effect Mode? And let's check our processing on this just to make sure that we're not obviously turning that stuff off. So you see this is soap opera effect on. My user settings are maxed out per the usual that I use. Now we're gonna let this little test pattern pop up here. Okay. And as we test it, we can see that we're sitting, I would call it at 100 milliseconds. Right there. Now it's going up, and that's about what it is, 100 milliseconds input lag. Okay. Now we're going to turn soap opera effect off and see if there's any real difference there. Okay, soap opera effect. Let's turn this stuff off. And let's see the kind of difference we're getting in HDR mode right here. Okay. Let it populate. Here we go. In HDR Plus, or the HDR mode, we are experiencing lower input lag at 92 milliseconds. So, with soap opera effect off, you will get better response time in HDR mode. Now, I wager that's because obviously you have extra processing, which, you know, would slow down the TV. Because, of course, it's an HDR effect mode. Now, let's try the Technicolor mode and see what happens. We're going to see where we are for our motion here. We're going to be in user, and when we're in user, we have 9 on the de-judder and 10 on the blur reduction, or motion blur. Okay, we're just going to hold it here. And we are sitting steadily at 100.3.2. So the same 100 milliseconds that we were at before. That's where we are at now. And this is in the Technicolor Expert mode, and this is the user preset. Now we're going to go to our motion setting, and we're going to go and turn that stuff back off. Alright. Let it populate. And there we go. So we're sitting at 108.7.6. So as you guys can clearly see, more input lag with Soap Opera Effect off than with Soap Opera Effect on with the Technicolor Expert. And this is something that a lot of the mainstream guys don't bother showing you, as I was saying, because again, it will change depending on how you're using your TV. Like, just because you're using Soap Opera Effect doesn't automatically mean you're introducing loads of lag into it. Like I was saying to a lot of people, it only improves motion. But, you know, what do I know? I'm only a professional calibrator. So let's run and test and show you guys in real time. I'd imagine that this 92 millisecond input lag is with Soap Opera Effect on, right? 92. Okay. And now let's see where we're at. We're in Expert Bright Room. Now we're going to go into our motion settings here, if I can ever stop dropping down into different menus. Okay, now we're going to go into turning off the Soap Opera Effect per the recommendation of your professional reviewers. Quotation mark around professional. Okay, and now we're going to test and see where our input lag is. My bang on with 108.6. So that's quite a bit higher. If you know, 92 to 108.6, those are some really different numbers there. And again, that's with Soap Opera Effect off versus Soap Opera Effect on. So as you guys are seeing, it has an adverse effect if you're a gamer. Now, ISF Dark will be the absolute last one that we do, and I'm pretty sure the Soap Opera Effect is on. Okay, so let's just go to Expert Settings and make sure that stuff is on. Now I have de-judder turned down. I didn't max out my, or de-blur turned down. I think that's by default, but I'm just going to go ahead and max that stuff out. And let's see what it is now. Okay. Waiting for it. Now we're going to go on. And we've got 100.2 milliseconds. Alright, I think I can safely call it there. Okay. Now we're going to go to turning on our Soap Opera Effect feature. Alright, and Soap Opera Effect, what do you say we turn it off, and we see what that does. Alright, and now we're going to go back on the screen here. So it's getting closer. It's about the same for this particular one at 100 milliseconds. It's 100.2 I see with Soap Opera Effect off. Okay. Now let's see what happens when we turn Soap Opera Effect back on. I'm not entirely sure what those numbers were. I've already forgotten. So let's see Soap Opera Effect user. Okay. And we're just going to turn that stuff back on. Wait for it to populate on the screen. And then we can just run our test pattern. And we are actually at the same input lag levels. So virtually no difference in what you do. They're the same in ISF Darkroom. So there you guys have it. You probably have heard a lot about how, you know, Soap Opera Effect introduces all of this input lag and it's unplayable and you can't do anything with it. When you're seeing clear as day, in many cases, this actually makes it better for you. So, food for thought, something to think about. Thanks for watching the #1 brand in honesty, and until the next video, I'll see you guys later.